The year was 2478, and the Orion arm belonged to no one species anymore. Humanity had clawed its way to the stars only to discover that the galaxy was already crowded. The Volare Dominion stretched across 100 systems like a lattice of living crystal. The insectoid Kresh collective devoured worlds and turned them into hive nurseries. The enigmatic sulfur drifted between dimensions in ships that looked like frozen auroras. And then there were the Lyrani. The Lyrani were beautiful the way neutron stars are beautiful, remote, radiant, and lethal if you came too close. Their skin shifted color with emotion, their blood carried liquid starlight, and their minds were linked in a subtle, planet-wide empathy that humans could only glimpse through neural translators. Touching a Lyrani without permission was punishable by immediate neural pruning, having every memory of physical sensation erased forever. Intimacy between a Lyrani and any alien species was the highest taboo. Their genome rejected foreign DNA so violently that conception was impossible. Attempts at artificial hybridization had produced only stillborn abominations that screamed in frequencies that shattered minds. The Dominion had outlawed all contact beyond diplomacy centuries ago. None of that stopped Dr. Elias Kane from falling in love with one. Elias was 34 standard years old, a xeno-anthropologist attached to the Terran embassy on Lyran Prime, the moon-sized station orbiting the gas giant Valar, 9 where first contact had been made 70 years earlier. He had spent 6 years learning the Lyrani language, not the spoken clicks and harmonics, but the silent language of bioluminescent pulses that raced across their skin when they truly spoke. He had published 3 monographs on Lyrani grief rituals that were considered classics in academic circles. He was respected, discreet, and lonely in a way that went marrow deep. Her name was Asha'vira, literally, she who carries dawn. Among her people, she was a memory keeper, a living archive who absorbed the final thoughts of the dying and carried them into the great weave, the psychic reservoir every Lyrani mind touched after death. She was young for her calling, barely 90 standard years, and her skin still held the pale silver of adolescence rather than the deep indigo of full maturity. When Elias first saw her in the Hall of Echoes, she was kneeling beside an elder whose light was fading, her palms pressed to the dying woman's temples as gold and violet sorrow rippled across her shoulders like spilled wine. He should have looked away. Instead he stood frozen, translator bead warm against his carotid, and felt something in his chest crack open. They began meeting by accident that became habit, first in the public gardens where humans and Lyrani could walk the same paths provided they stayed 3 meters apart. Then in the restricted archives when Elias needed clearance for his research and Asha'vira was the only memory keeper willing to guide a human. Then, finally, in the maintenance corridors beneath the station where surveillance was blind and gravity could be dialed down to a dreamy 0.4 G so that walking felt like floating. The first time she let him touch her hand, both of them trembled, so violently the contact lasted less than 2 seconds. Her skin was warmer than a human's, and beneath the silk of it he felt a faint thrum, like standing next to a running engine. When she pulled away, the place their fingers had met glowed soft rose on her wrist for hours. She hid it beneath a ceremonial cuff and did not sleep for 3 days. "I should not want this," she whispered once, voice carried through the translator as a low cello note of distress. "Every generation, some of us are born broken. We feel the weave only faintly. We are pitted. I thought I had accepted solitude. Then you looked at me as if I were already part of your soul, and I understood what starvation feels like." Elias had no poetry for her. He only said, "I'm terrified every minute that I'll hurt you, and I still can't stay away." They learned each other in fragments. She taught him how Lyrani lovers, once courted by exchanging single photons of personalized light, impossible now, with the old traditions outlawed even among themselves. He taught her earth music, old jazz, the sound of rain on tin roofs, the way humans cried at weddings even when they were happy. When she first heard Billie Holiday, Asha'vira wept actual tears, clear, faintly luminescent fluid that burned tiny holes in the metal decking. They never kissed. The risk of neural feedback was too high. A full merging of minds during passion had killed cross-species couples before. Instead, they developed rituals of almost touch, palms held a centimeter apart so the heat could bridge the gap, foreheads resting together while their breath mingled in the narrow space between. Sometimes they simply sat in 0 G and let inertia drift them slowly together until some body part, elbow, knee, the curve of a shoulder, brushed and sent fireworks racing across her skin while Elias felt his heartbeat trying to leap out of his chest. For 8 months they balanced on that knife edge, believing that if they were careful enough, the universe might let them keep their secret. Then Asha'vira missed her cycle of deep weave meditation, 3 days when memory keepers submerged themselves in the collective to deposit the memories they carried. She emerged pale, almost translucent, with dark veins visible beneath her skin like storm clouds. "I took your memories of your mother into the weave," she told Elias in the dark beneath the station, voice shaking. "When she died, I felt how much you loved her. The weave rejected them. It said they were contaminated. Alien. Wrong." She pressed both hands to her abdomen as if something inside already hurt. "They are coming for me. The Synod of Keepers. They will prune me, Elias. They will take everything that feels." He begged her to run. The embassy had a shuttle. He had clearance codes. They could be in neutral space within hours. She refused. "If I flee, they will purge every human on the station to cleanse the contamination. Hundreds will die. I will not trade their lives for mine." So Elias did the only thing he could think of. He went to the Terran ambassador and confessed everything. Ambassador Reyes was a hard woman forged by 40 years of diplomacy in a galaxy that ate the soft. She listened to Elias's story without blinking, then asked a single question. "Do you love her enough to die for her, Dr. Kane?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "Good," Reyes replied, "because that is the minimum price." What followed was a masterclass in bureaucratic warfare. Reyes invoked Article 19 of the First Contact Accords, an ancient clause no one had used in 50 years that allowed emergency asylum for any sentient being whose life was threatened by cultural law. She threatened to close the embassy, recall all human personnel, and slap a full trade embargo on the Dominion. The Lyrani economy depended on human rare earth shipments. They could not afford a war. The Synod demanded Asha'vira be surrendered for compassionate correction. Reyes countered by leaking the entire affair to the galactic mesh, complete with holos of Asha'vira's glowing skin and Elias's human face inches from hers, both of them luminous with longing. Overnight the story became the most watched vid in the Orion arm. The love that could end 2 civilizations. Public opinion, that ancient and unreliable beast, roared to life. On Earth, protests filled the streets of New Mumbai and Old London. On Lyran Prime, young Lyrani began painting rose-colored handprints on public walls, the mark Asha'vira bore on her wrist where Elias had touched her. The Synod found itself facing the unthinkable, dissent within the weave itself. They compromised. Asha'vira would be exiled, not pruned, but stripped of her title and banished from Dominion space forever. Elias would accompany her as cultural liaison, a polite fiction meaning hostage to ensure her good behavior. They would be given a small diplomatic cutter and dropped at the edge of neutral territory with enough fuel to reach the Freeport station in the Kepler Verge. They left at dawn station time. In the shuttle bay, Asha'vira wore a plain gray travel cloak that hid her light. Elias wore the same clothes he'd had on for 3 days. Neither of them spoke until the airlock cycled and the stars opened in front of them like spilled diamonds. Only then did she turn to him, let the cloak fall, and show him what the Synod had not discovered in their haste. Her abdomen glowed softly beneath the fabric of her tunic, gentle pulses of rose and gold moving in slow, deliberate waves. The rhythm was unmistakable. A heartbeat. 2 heartbeats. "It should have been impossible," she whispered. "Our kinds kill each other at the cellular level. But love, it seems, is a more stubborn chemistry." Elias sank to his knees in the narrow corridor, pressed his forehead to that faint light, and cried the way humans do, messy and loud and human. Asha'vira wrapped her arms around his head and let her own tears fall, burning tiny stars into the deck plates. Behind them, Lyran Prime receded into a bright crescent. Ahead, the galaxy stretched wide and cold, and full of places that had never heard of taboos. They named the child later, after they had limped across 3 systems in a ship held together by hope and duct tape, after the Freeport medics, exiled crush surgeons with 8 delicate arms, confirmed that yes, the fetus was viable, a chimeric miracle with human bones and Lyrani starlight in its veins. They named her Dawn. Because every forbidden thing, in the end, is only the first page of a new story.